Derek Thompson's quote that many working parents worry they spend too many hours at the office highlights the theme of the stimulus packet, parenting. By spending extensive hours at work, these parents are neglecting and thus damaging the relationship they have with their children. The struggle of maintaining this relationship is a struggle all parents face, even those behind bars. Some might think that this issue is not significant as it affects a very small amount of people. However, this is not the case. In fact, the American Journal of Public Health states that in 1 year alone, 14,000 mothers gave birth while incarcerated. This vast majority of mothers need more than the mere 9 programs in the U.S. today to address their unique circumstances. This prompts the overarching question for this presentation: within psychological and futuristic context, to what extent should prison nurseries be implemented into state correctional facilities in the United States? Ultimately, it will be concluded that all American state correctional facilities need to modify their regulations to implement these widely beneficial prison nurseries. First, it's important to consider the psychological implications. Kelsey Kaufman, director of the Higher Education Program at the Indiana Women Prison, states that prison nurseries provide education programs on parenting and life skills that increase mother self-respect. Similarly, Susanna Kennan, coordinator of parent education in prisons in Virginia, explains that the attainment of such skills gives mothers confidence in their parenting ability and allows them to develop a positive outlook on life that thus benefits them psychologically. This underlines the need for prison nurseries throughout America that can provide such benefits to all incarcerated mothers. Moreover, Associate Professor of Sociology at the University of California, Kristen Turney, found in her study of 4,096 mothers that 20% experienced depression being separated from their child. Similarly, Adam Smith states, there is a tender mother afraid to send her son to school at Seaport Town. This mother, soon to be separated from her child like incarcerated mothers, is suffering from psychological issues such as anxiety and depression. Although Turney's results are limited in that they were self-reported rather than obtained from a physician, her and Smith are evident in their findings that isolating mothers from their children causes psychological issues. Some may argue that children need a relationship with their biological parent for healthy development. Yet, Dr. Dieter Deckard, professor of psychological sciences at the University of Massachusetts, clarifies that children only need an enduring emotional bond with a parent. But according to developmental behavioral pediatrician Dr. Robin Chernoff, if not with their biological mother, these children are put into the foster care system, where they experience feelings of anxiety and stress that prevent any sort of healthy development. This proves that separating mothers from their children not to be beneficial and begs the need for prison nurseries to be implemented throughout all states in America. To synthesize, while it's not required for newborns to be raised by their biological mother, the alternative of foster care and its resulting separation of mother and child results in psychological issues that must and can be prevented by the implementation of prison nurseries in all states. Not only does implementing prison nurseries reap psychological benefits, but also futuristic ones. The Division of Criminal Justice Services study on New York's prisoners found that recidivism rates for those part of the nursery programs were 13.7%, while those part of the general prison population were 23.9%. Similarly, Joseph Carlson, associate professor at the University of Nebraska's Department of Criminal Justice, found that recidivism rates for mothers part of Nebraska's prison nurseries were 16.8%, while those part of the general prison population were 50%. He states mothers given the opportunity to co-reside and develop a bond with their children through prison nurseries are less likely to reoffend as they do not want to be separated from their child. As previously mentioned, 80% of children separated from their incarcerated mothers go into foster care. Dr. Lenore McWade, professor at Florida State University's Department of Family and Child Sciences, states that 64% of children in foster care experience some type of maltreatment, whether that be physical or sexual abuse. These forms of maltreatment result in later delinquency behaviors. Leslie Harris, professor of law at the University of Oregon, similarly explains that foster care exposes children to substantial risk of later delinquency, poverty, and homelessness. Clearly, without prison nurseries for kids to co-reside with their mothers, they will be put into a system that deeply impairs their future. Conversely, former editor of the British Medical Journal, Adam Smith, states that prison is an unacceptable environment for children to grow up in due to its rigid structure that prevents it from being a safe and comforting environment. But however, this argument is limited in that it does not consider regulations put in place that could possibly prevent such fates. For example, Kate Luther and Joanna Gregson, professors of sociology at Pacific Lutheran University, found in their study of Washington Pacific's State Correctional Facility that incarcerated mothers could decorate their cells and participate in communal events such as family nights. These abilities gave mothers the chance to create a safe, stimulating, and comforting environment for the children that go against the so-called rigid structure of prison. To synthesize, while prison might not be the ideal environment for a child to grow up in, implementing prison nurseries and their beneficial regulations in all correctional facilities in the U.S. will reap many futuristic benefits, which is why states should reform their prison systems. In summary, while it's not required for a child to be brought up by their biological parent, and prison is not the perfect environment for a child, the psychologically and futuristically beneficial prison nurseries necessitate a change in states' prison systems. All remaining 41 states in the U.S. that have not already implemented prison nurseries need to do so, modeling their programs after those already successfully in place in 9 states in the U.S. Necessary regulations will include educational programs that educate them on parenting and life skills, the ability to decorate their cells, and the opportunity to participate in communal events with other program participants. This solution's implications regarding mothers are that it would prevent depression, benefiting them psychologically. It would also lower recidivism rates, benefiting them futuristically. This solution's implications regarding newborns are that it would keep them from entering the foster care system where they are vulnerable to anxiety, stress, and maltreatment, benefiting them psychologically and futuristically. However, this solution is limited in that it will be difficult to persuade all of the remaining 41 states to completely reform their prison systems. Additionally, it does not account for the few relatives of such newborns who may not want their child to be brought up in jail, but rather with them. We must work to better the lives of incarcerated mothers and their children, and this solution will indeed do so by keeping the mistakes of a mother from haunting the future of her child. Thank you.
Okay. Anya, what information did you need before you began your research, and how did that information shape your research?
Well, before I began my research, I needed to first of all get some context on what prison nurseries were and what happened to children of incarcerated mothers. And what I found was a lot of information on how mothers suffered psychologically from the separation of themselves from their child, such as in Kelsey Kaufman, director of the higher education program at Indiana Women's Prison. She stated that when they are separated from their children, they have feelings of anxiety and depression, which are psychological negative effects. This information that I gathered from sources such as Kelsey Kaufman, from databases such as JSTOR and EBSCO, allowed me to go into one of my lenses, which was psychological, and the second one being futuristic.
What additional questions emerged from your research, and why are these questions important?
So a lot of my research was based on the direct effects prison nurseries have on mothers, such as the psychological effects of depression and anxiety. But what I would like to learn more about, and some questions I have, is what rights do mothers truly have? are they deemed unfit parents because they are in prison? Does that make them not allowed to actually raise their children in prison? Additionally, if a family member of this child was brought to court to fight against the mother, who would win? What rights do each of the participating people have? Additionally, I want to know if, in my presentation, I talk a lot about how foster care is a negative system that harms children because it opens them up to anxiety and stress and maltreatment. But is foster care more economically beneficial than prison nurseries, which is something I'd really like to go further into.